The bass thrummed through my chest like a second heartbeat, vibrating through the worn leather of my boots and up into my bones. Friday night at the Velvet Room meant packed bodies, spilled drinks, and the kind of reckless energy that made people forget their problems, or create new ones. I wiped down the mahogany bar for the third time in 10 minutes, my fingers pruned from constant contact with ice water and gin, the sharp scent of citrus and alcohol permanently embedded under my nails. "Emma! Another round for table 6!" Marcus shouted from somewhere in the chaos, his voice barely cutting through the remix of some pop song I'd heard 1,000 times. I nodded, though he couldn't see me, and reached for the top-shelf vodka. My arms ached. My feet screamed. The double shift was killing me, but the rent didn't care about my exhaustion, and neither did the mounting hospital bills from Mom's last treatment. I was invisible here, just another bartender in black, pouring poison for people who had money to waste. I caught my reflection in the mirror behind the bottles. Dark circles under green eyes, blonde hair scraped back into a messy bun, the same tired face I'd been wearing for months. 23 and already running on fumes. "Emma!" I turned to find Jess and Mia stumbling toward the bar, their faces flushed with alcohol and mischief. They'd been here since happy hour, and I'd lost count of their drinks around number 5. "We're bored," Jess announced, leaning dramatically across the bar, her sequined top catching the strobing lights. "Entertain us." "I'm working," I said, mixing the vodka sodas with practiced efficiency. "Entertain yourselves." "That's what we're doing." Mia grinned, that dangerous smile that had gotten us into trouble since high school. "Truth or dare? Your turn." I groaned. "I'm not playing dare," Mia decided for me, her eyes scanning the crowd like a predator selecting prey. "I dare you to kiss the most dangerous-looking man in this bar." My stomach dropped. "Absolutely not. Come on." Jess giggled, already scanning the room. "Live a little. When's the last time you did something crazy?" "Never. I didn't do crazy. I did safe. I did responsible. I did double shifts and meal-prepped lunches, and fell asleep watching nursing tutorials, because that was the plan. Save enough, go back to school, build a real life. There." Mia pointed toward the VIP section, partially hidden behind frosted glass panels. "Corner booth, black suit. That's your guy." I followed her finger, squinting through the dim lighting and fog machine haze. The VIP area was elevated slightly, separated from the main floor by velvet ropes and a bouncer who looked like he could bench press a car. And there, in the shadows of the corner booth, I could barely make out a figure. But even from this distance, even through the crowd and the smoke and the pulsing lights, I felt something shift in the air. He sat utterly still while chaos swirled around him, an island of calm in a sea of drunken movement. I couldn't see his face clearly, just the sharp cut of his jaw, the way the dim light caught on dark hair styled with precision, the breadth of shoulders that filled out a suit that probably cost more than my car. 3 men flanked him, standing rather than sitting, their eyes constantly scanning the room with the focused intensity of guard dogs. "Him?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Unless you're scared," Mia sing-songed. I wasn't scared. I was sensible. There was a difference. But sensible hadn't gotten me anywhere except exhausted and broke. Sensible meant another Friday night watching other people have fun while I cleaned up their messes. And maybe it was the exhaustion, or the frustration, or the way Jess and Mia were looking at me with pitying eyes that said, "Poor Emma, always so careful, always so boring." "Fine." The word escaped before I could stop it. "What?" Jess's eyes widened. "I'll do it." My heart hammered against my ribs. "1 kiss. Then you 2 leave me alone for the rest of the night." Mia squealed, clapping her hands. "Yes. Go before you chicken out." I untied my apron with shaking fingers, my mouth suddenly dry. This was insane. This was the opposite of everything I stood for. But my feet were already moving, carrying me around the bar, through the press of bodies that smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. The bouncer at the VIP rope looked at me like I was a stray dog wandering into a palace. "I need to..." I gestured vaguely toward the corner booth. "Deliver a message." He didn't move. "From?" The bar. It wasn't technically a lie. He studied me for a long moment, then spoke into an earpiece I hadn't noticed. After a pause, he unclipped the rope. Make it quick. My palms were sweating. The VIP section was quieter, insulated somehow from the chaos below. The carpet was thicker here, muffling sound. The lighting was softer, amber instead of strobing neon. And with each step closer to that corner booth, the air seemed to grow heavier, charged with something I couldn't name. I could see him better now, mid-30s maybe. Dark hair swept back from a face that was all brutal angles. Sharp cheekbones. A nose that looked like it had been broken and reset. A mouth that suggested neither smiles nor sympathy came easily. But it was his eyes that stopped me cold. Even in the shadows, they were striking. Dark, bottomless, the kind of eyes that saw everything and revealed nothing. He didn't look at me. Not at first. He was listening to one of his men, who leaned in close to whisper something. But then, as if sensing my presence, his gaze lifted and locked onto mine. The world contracted to that single point of connection. I forgot how to breathe. He didn't smile, didn't speak. Just looked at me with the intensity of a predator considering whether something was prey or threat, and I felt stripped bare under that assessment. Every fear, every secret, every desperate hope laid out for examination. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat, forced myself to take the last few steps to his table. Hi. One of his men moved to intercept me, but the man in the suit raised a single finger, barely a movement, and the guard froze. Hi, I said again, brilliantly. My prepared explanation evaporated. The dare suddenly seemed impossibly stupid, childish. This man wasn't someone you played games with. Everything about him screamed danger, from the perfectly tailored suit that couldn't hide the muscle beneath to the way his men positioned themselves like soldiers awaiting orders. You are lost. His voice was low, accented, Italian maybe, each word precisely chosen. Not a question. A statement. No, what was I? An idiot? Someone who let her drunk friends make her decisions? I'm supposed to deliver something. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Amusement? Interest? And what are you delivering? This was it. The moment to back out, to laugh it off, say I had the wrong table, retreat to the safety of my bar where I belonged. Instead, I leaned down, my heart thundering so loud I was sure he could hear it, and pressed my lips to his. I meant for it to be quick, a peck. Evidence for Jess and Mia that I'd completed their stupid dare, but the moment my mouth touched his, everything changed. He went utterly still, that deadly stillness of a snake before it strikes. His lips were warm, firm, and for one suspended heartbeat, neither of us moved. I could smell him. Expensive cologne with notes of cedar and something darker, leather and smoke and power. Could feel the heat radiating from his body, the coiled tension in his absolute lack of response. Then his hand came up, fingers curling around the back of my neck with shocking gentleness. And he kissed me back. It wasn't gentle. His mouth moved over mine with the confidence of a man who took what he wanted, his grip on my neck firm enough to keep me exactly where he wanted me. The kiss deepened, turned hungry, and I gasped against his mouth, which was apparently an invitation, because his tongue swept past my lips, tasting, claiming, possessing. I should have pulled away, should have remembered this was a dare, a game, a stupid mistake, but I was drowning in sensation. The skilled movement of his mouth, the possessive grip of his fingers threaded through my hair, the way my body responded without permission. Leaning into him like he was gravity, and I was helpless against the pull. When he finally released me, I stumbled back, my lips swollen, my breathing ragged. His expression had changed, no longer merely assessing. Now there was heat in those dark eyes, interest mixed with something more dangerous. What is your name? His voice was rougher now, the accent more pronounced. Emma. It came out as a whisper. Emma. He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting each syllable. Who sent you? No one. It was just... The truth was too embarrassing. A dare. Something shifted in his face. His men exchanged glances, and then, impossibly, The corner of his mouth lifted in what might have been a smile, though it held no warmth. "A dare," he repeated. "You kiss strange men on dares?" "You're my first," I admitted, then immediately regretted it. That almost smile widened fractionally. Fortunate for me, he leaned back, his fingers drumming once against the table, a gesture that somehow seemed significant. "What do you do? Emma, who kisses dangerous men on dares." "I'm a bartender. Here. I gestured vaguely toward the main floor. "Get back to work." "Yes," he agreed, but his eyes said something else entirely. I turned to leave, my legs unsteady, my mind reeling. What had I just done? Kissed a complete stranger in the VIP section like some kind of... "Emma," I froze at the sound of my name in his mouth. "I will see you again." It wasn't a question. It was a promise. I fled back to the bar, past the bouncer who watched me with new interest, through the crowd that suddenly felt suffocating. Jess and Mia were waiting, bouncing with excitement. "Oh my God, you actually did it!" Mia shrieked. "Who was he?" Jess demanded. He looked intense. I didn't answer. Couldn't, because I was staring at the corner booth, where the man in the black suit was speaking to one of his guards, his eyes never leaving me even as he gave what appeared to be instructions. And then I saw it. The way other patrons gave his section a wide berth, the way the manager himself appeared, nodding deferentially as he spoke to the man, the way even the security guard seemed nervous in his presence. "Emma?" Jess waved a hand in front of my face. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Not a ghost. Something much worse. I just kissed someone important, someone powerful, someone who didn't belong in a place like this except by choice, and whose choice clearly meant something significant." The man stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. His men formed a protective formation around him immediately, and as he walked toward the exit, people parting before him like water around a stone, he paused at the edge of the VIP section. Our eyes met across the crowded bar. He touched 2 fingers to his lips, then pointed at me, acclaiming. A mark. A promise. Then he was gone, swallowed by the night and his entourage, leaving me trembling behind my bar with the taste of cedar and danger still on my tongue, and the terrible, creeping realization that I had just made a mistake I couldn't unmake. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your shift ends at 2 a.m. My car will be waiting. Don't run, Emma. It will only make things more interesting." The blood drained from my face. How did he have my number? How did he know my schedule? I looked up to find Marcus staring at the corner booth, then at me, his face pale. "Emma," he said quietly. "Please tell me you didn't just kiss Dante Caruso." The name meant nothing to me. The look on Marcus's face meant everything. "Who?" I whispered. "The head of the Caruso family." His voice was barely audible over the music. "The most dangerous man in the city, and I had kissed him on a dare. I didn't sleep. How could I? When every time I closed my eyes I saw his face, those dark, bottomless eyes that had looked at me like I was something to be acquired, possessed, kept, when I could still feel the ghost of his fingers on the back of my neck, firm and possessive, claiming me with a single touch. The text message glowed on my phone screen in the darkness of my studio apartment. I'd read it so many times the words were burned into my retinas. "Don't run, Emma." But I had run. Of course I had. The moment my shift ended at 2 a.m., I'd slipped out the back exit, the one that opened into the alley where we threw out the trash. I'd run 3 blocks before catching a bus, looking over my shoulder the entire time, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. No black cars had followed me. No men in expensive suits had materialized from the shadows. I'd made it home, locked every lock on my door, all 3 of them, and then stood in my tiny shower until the water ran cold, trying to scrub away the feeling of being marked, claimed, seen. It didn't work. Now, as gray morning light filtered through my thin curtains, I stared at my ceiling and tried to convince myself it was over. He was probably used to women throwing themselves at him. The kiss meant nothing. The text was just a power play, a way to scare me because I'd had the audacity to approach him without permission. By Monday, he would have forgotten I existed. I almost believed it. My phone buzzed on the nightstand and I jumped, my heart leaping into my throat. But it was just my alarm, 7 a.m., time to get ready for my Saturday morning shift at the diner. Because apparently I was a glutton for punishment, working 7 days a week just to keep my head barely above water. The diner was a 15-minute walk from my apartment, a greasy spoon called Rosie's that served burnt coffee and even more burnt bacon to the same rotating cast of regulars who'd been coming here since before I was born. It was the opposite of the Velvet Room, fluorescent lights instead of strobing neon, cracked vinyl booths instead of velvet ropes, the smell of fryer oil instead of expensive cologne. Safe. Familiar. Mine. I tied my pink waitress apron around my waist and forced myself to smile at Mr. Peterson, who always ordered the same thing, 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, black coffee, and always left exactly a 10% tip, counted out in quarters. "Morning, sweetheart," he croaked, his newspaper already spread across the table. The usual, "Coming right up." The morning crawled by in a blur of orders and refills and the mindless routine that usually soothed me. But today I couldn't focus. I mixed up orders, forgot to bring cream, dropped the entire pot of coffee that shattered across the checkered linoleum. "Emma, honey, you okay?" Rosie herself emerged from the kitchen, her gray hair escaping from her hairnet, concern creasing her weathered face. "You seem jumpy." "Fine," I lied, grabbing a mop. "Just didn't sleep well." She studied me with the knowing eyes of a woman who'd seen everything twice, then patted my shoulder. "Boy trouble. If only it were that simple." Something like that. Well, whatever he did, he ain't worth losing sleep over. They never are. She headed back to the kitchen, calling over her shoulder, "Table 6 needs a refill." I turned toward table 6 and froze. The coffee pot slipped from my fingers, hitting the floor with a crash that made every head in the diner turn. Because sitting in booth 6, looking completely out of place in his 3-piece charcoal suit among the truckers and retirees, was Dante Caruso. He wasn't alone. 2 of his men flanked the booth, one standing near the door, the other by the window, both of them scanning the diner with that same predatory awareness I'd noticed last night. They were trying to blend in, but they stuck out like wolves in a chicken coop, all coiled muscle and cold eyes. And Dante himself sat with perfect posture, his hands folded on the table, watching me with an expression that might have been amusement, if it weren't so absolutely terrifying. "Emma?" Rosie called from the kitchen. "What's going on out there?" I couldn't answer, couldn't move, could barely breathe. Dante tilted his head slightly, a silent command. "Come here." My feet moved without my permission, carrying me across the diner while every instinct screamed at me to run. But there was nowhere to run. He'd found me at work, which meant he could find me anywhere. How did he know where I worked? I stopped at the edge of his booth, my hands shaking. Up close, in the harsh fluorescent light, he was even more striking than he'd been in the shadowy VIP section. His face was all brutal elegance, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and those eyes. God, those eyes. They tracked my every movement like I was the only thing in the room worth watching. "You ran." His voice was soft, conversational. The accent was definitely Italian, each word rolling off his tongue with practiced precision. I had to get home. My shift was over. My driver waited for 30 minutes. He picked up the laminated menu, studying it with the same intensity he'd studied me. He was disappointed. I was intrigued. "I'm sorry," I whispered, though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. Kissing him? Running? Existing? "Are you?" He set down the menu, his dark eyes locking onto mine. "I don't think you are. I think you are frightened." "I'm not." "Don't lie to me, Emma." The temperature in the diner seemed to drop 10 degrees. "I value honesty above all things. Lie to me again, and there will be consequences." My mouth went dry. "Okay, yes, I'm terrified." Something flickered across his face. Approval, maybe. "Better. Sit." "I'm working." "Sit." Not a request. I slid into the booth across from him on legs that barely supported my weight. This close, I could smell him again. Cedar and leather and something darker, more dangerous. Could see the faint scar that cut through his left eyebrow, the 5 o'clock shadow that suggested he'd been awake as long as I had. Coffee, he said, gesturing to the broken pot still pooling on the floor. You seem to drop things when you see me. Why is that? Because you're... I caught myself before saying terrifying. Unexpected. He leaned back, one arm stretched along the back of the booth, completely relaxed. Or at least, appearing relaxed. But I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes never stopped moving, cataloging exits and threats. Tell me, Emma, what do you know about me? Just your name, Dante Caruso. I swallowed hard. And that you're... important. Important. He tested the word, then smiled. A real smile this time, though it didn't reach his eyes. Diplomatic. Did your manager tell you anything else? I thought of Marcus's pale face, the way he'd pulled me aside before I left last night. Stay away from him, Emma. The Caruso family, they're not people you want to be involved with. They're dangerous. Connected. No, I lied, then immediately regretted it when his expression hardened. Emma. He said you were dangerous, I amended quickly. That your family is... connected. Connected. Another word tasted and considered. Also diplomatic. Your manager is smarter than he looks. Dante leaned forward, his elbows on the table, close enough that I could see flecks of gold in his dark irises. I will be honest with you, since I expect the same in return. Yes, my family is connected. We have business interests that are not always... legal. We have enemies, we have power, and we protect what is ours with extreme prejudice. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them in my lap. Why are you telling me this? Because you kissed me. He said it simply, like it explained everything. You walked into my section, looked me in the eye, and kissed me like you had every right to do so. No fear, no calculation. Just... impulse. It was a dare, I whispered. Yes, a dare. His fingers drummed once on the table. That same gesture from last night. Do you know how long it has been since someone approached me without wanting something? Without fear or greed or ambition? I shook my head. Neither do I. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine before I could pull away. His skin was warm, his grip gentle but unbreakable. You are either very brave or very stupid, Emma. I have not decided which. Stupid, I said immediately. Definitely stupid. That almost smile returned. Perhaps. But you intrigue me, and I am a man who is rarely intrigued. I'm nobody, I protested weakly. I'm just a waitress, a bartender. I'm broke and exhausted, and I have nothing you could possibly want. You have yourself. His thumb stroked across my knuckles, a possessive gesture that made my breath catch, and I find that I want to know you. Your story, your dreams, your fears. His grip tightened fractionally. Your taste. Heat flooded my face. Mr. Caruso. Dante. Dante, I corrected, testing his name on my tongue. It felt dangerous. Forbidden. I don't understand what you want from me. Neither do I. Not yet. He released my hand, leaving my skin feeling cold in the absence of his touch. But I will. Have dinner with me tonight. I have to work. Call in sick. I can't afford to. I will compensate you for the lost wages. He pulled out his phone, tapped something, and then my phone buzzed in my apron pocket. There. I have sent you the address. 8 o'clock. A car will collect you at 7:30. I pulled out my phone with shaking fingers. The text showed an address in the Upper East Side, the kind of neighborhood where apartments cost more than most people made in a lifetime. And below it, a notification from my banking app, a deposit. $5,000. My heart stopped. I can't accept this. You already have. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. His men immediately moved to flank him, forming a protective formation. 8 o'clock, Emma. Don't run again. I would hate to have to chase you. The way he said it, soft, almost gentle, made it clear that he would chase me and that I wouldn't like what happened when he caught me. What if I say no? The question escaped before I could stop it. Dante paused, turning back to look at me with those bottomless dark eyes. For a long moment, He said nothing. Then he reached out, his fingers tilting my chin up, forcing me to meet his gaze. "You won't," he said simply. And then, impossibly, he leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to my forehead, a gesture so at odds with everything else about him that I gasped. He straightened, releasing me, and walked toward the door. His men followed, moving with synchronized precision. At the entrance, he paused, glancing back over his shoulder. "Wear something nice, Piccola. I'm taking you somewhere special." Then he was gone, leaving me shaking in the booth with $5,000 in my account and the certain knowledge that my life had just changed in ways I couldn't begin to understand. Rosie appeared at my elbow, her face pale. "Emma, honey, was that—" "I don't know," I whispered, even though I did. "You need to be careful." She gripped my shoulder, her fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "Men like that, they're dangerous. They take what they want and they don't let go." I looked down at my phone, at the address glowing on the screen, at the money sitting in my account like a promise and a threat. "I know," I said. But even as I said it, even as fear coiled in my stomach like a living thing, I knew I would go. Because Dante Caruso had looked at me, really looked at me, and seen something worth wanting, and God help me, some desperate, broken part of me wanted to be wanted, even if it destroyed me. I stood in front of my closet at 6:30, staring at the pathetic collection of clothes hanging before me, like they might spontaneously transform into something appropriate for dinner with a Mafia boss. They didn't. 3 pairs of jeans, all faded, 2 work shirts, the black uniform from the Velvet Room, a sundress I'd bought at a thrift store 2 years ago, and in the very back, still wrapped in dry cleaner plastic, the navy blue dress I'd worn to my father's funeral. My hands trembled as I reached for it. "Wear something nice, Piccola." The Italian endearment had echoed in my head all day. "Little one." As if I were something small and precious, something to be protected rather than something to be feared. The contradiction made my head spin. This man who Marcus said was dangerous, who commanded a room with a single gesture, who had men willing to kill for him, calling me Piccola like I was delicate. The dress slipped over my head, the fabric whispering against my skin. It was simple. Modest neckline, hem just above the knee, long sleeves, respectable. The kind of thing you wore when you needed to look put together, but couldn't afford to actually be put together. I twisted my hair up, letting a few strands fall to frame my face. Minimal makeup. I didn't own much anyway. A swipe of mascara, a touch of lip gloss. My hands were still shaking. My phone buzzed. 7:15. The car is downstairs. I peered out my window. Sure enough, idling at the curb was a black Mercedes, sleek and predatory, completely out of place on my street of rusted sedans and broken streetlights. A man in a dark suit stood beside the back door, waiting with the patience of someone who had all the time in the world. This was insane. I should text back, say I was sick, say I'd changed my mind, say anything that would let me stay in my safe, small apartment where the most dangerous thing was the mold growing behind my refrigerator. Instead, I grabbed my thrift store purse, checked that I had my keys and pepper spray, and headed downstairs. The driver opened the door as I approached, his face professionally blank. "Miss Emma." Not a question. He knew exactly who I was. "Hi," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. The interior was all black leather and new car smell, so clean it made my apartment look like a dumpster. I sank into the seat, and the door closed with a solid, final sound, like a vault ceiling shut. We pulled away from the curb, and I watched my neighborhood disappear through tinted windows. The driver said nothing, just navigated through traffic with the kind of precision that suggested military training. I tried not to think about what kind of life required a driver with military training. 20 minutes later, we entered a part of the city I'd only seen in movies. Tree-lined streets, doormen in uniforms, buildings made of stone and glass that touched the sky, old money and new power coexisting in careful balance. The car pulled up to a restaurant I didn't recognize. No sign, just a discreet number on a heavy wooden door. The kind of place that didn't need to advertise because if you didn't already know about it, you couldn't afford it anyway. The driver opened my door. "He's waiting inside, Miss Emma." He's waiting. My legs felt like water as I approached the entrance, Before I could knock, the door opened, revealing a maitre d' in a tuxedo who looked at me with the kind of polite disdain reserved for people who clearly didn't belong. "Name?" he asked in accented English. "Emma. I'm here to see—" "Ah, yes, Mr. Caruso's guest." His entire demeanor changed, the disdain replaced by something that looked almost like nervousness. "Right this way, please." The restaurant was small, intimate, maybe 10 tables total, all occupied by people who radiated wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over white tablecloths and silver that actually gleamed. The air smelled like truffle and wine and money. And at the back, in a private corner that overlooked the city through floor-to-ceiling windows, sat Dante. He stood as I approached, and I was struck again by the sheer presence of him. He'd changed from this morning, now wearing all black, the suit perfectly tailored to his powerful frame. A dark shirt open at the collar, revealing a hint of golden skin. His hair was still damp, like he'd showered recently, and the scent of his cologne reached me even across the distance. "Emma." My name in his mouth was a caress. He moved around the table, pulling out my chair with old-world courtesy that seemed at odds with everything I knew about him. "You look beautiful," I almost laughed. Beautiful. In my funeral dress and drugstore makeup, surrounded by women dripping in diamonds and designer labels. But the way he looked at me, like I was the only person in the room, like I was something precious, made the laugh die in my throat. "Thank you," I whispered, sinking into the chair. "You didn't have to. All of this. I wanted to." He returned to his seat, and immediately a waiter appeared with wine. Expensive, judging by the reverent way he poured it. "I wanted to see you somewhere beautiful, somewhere worthy of you." "I work in a diner that smells like fryer oil," I pointed out, trying for levity. "This is definitely not worthy of me." That almost smile appeared. "You work in a diner because you must, not because you choose to. There is a difference." He lifted his wineglass. "To choices, Emma, and to second chances." I picked up my glass with trembling fingers, the crystal cold against my palm. "What are we having a second chance at?" "Everything." He took a sip, watching me over the rim. "Tell me about yourself, the real you, not the tired waitress or frightened bartender. Who is Emma?" The question was so unexpected, so genuinely curious, that I found myself answering honestly. "I don't know anymore. I used to be a nursing student. I was going to help people, save lives, make a difference." I laughed, but it sounded bitter even to my ears. "Then my dad died, left us with nothing but debt. Mom got sick, and suddenly I was just surviving, working, existing." "Your mother," Dante said quietly. "What is her illness?" "Breast cancer, stage 3. The words still hurt to say, even after 6 months. "She's in treatment, but the bills—" I stopped, realizing I was telling a stranger, a dangerous stranger, about my family's problems. "I'm sorry. You didn't ask me here to listen to my sad story. I asked you here to know you." He leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. "And I am learning that you are loyal, sacrificial. You put others before yourself, even when it costs you everything." "That's not special," I protested. "That's just what you do for family." "No, Piccola, it is not what everyone does. It is what good people do, rare people." His hand reached across the table, fingers intertwining with mine. "You interest me more every moment." The waiter appeared with the first course, something delicate and artistic that I couldn't identify. Dante released my hand, and I immediately missed the warmth of his touch. "Eat," he commanded gently. "You are too thin. You do not take care of yourself." "I take care of my mom," I countered, but I picked up my fork. The food was incredible, course after course of things I couldn't pronounce, but that melted on my tongue like poetry. Dante watched me eat with undisguised satisfaction, barely touching his own plate. "Why did you kiss me?" he asked suddenly, between the 3rd and 4th courses. The truth this time, not the dare. I set down my fork, my face heating. I don't know. My friends dared me, yes, but when I saw you, I struggled to find the words. You looked so alone, surrounded by people but completely alone. And I thought, just for a second, what would it be like to be someone who could reach someone like you? Someone untouchable. His expression shifted, something raw and almost vulnerable flashing across his face before his mask slammed back into place. Alone, he repeated softly. Yes. I am very alone, Emma. By choice, mostly. By necessity, always. Why? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Because caring about people makes you weak. He said it matter-of-factly, like reciting a lesson learned long ago. People you care about become targets, leverage, weapons that can be used against you. That sounds like a terrible way to live. It is the only way to live and survive in my world. He paused as the waiter delivered dessert, something chocolate and decadent. But you make me want to be reckless, to take risks I should not take. My heart hammered against my ribs. What kind of risks? Instead of answering, he stood, moving around the table with predatory grace. He offered his hand. Dance with me. There's no music. As if on cue, soft jazz began playing from hidden speakers. The other diners didn't even look up, as if the entire restaurant existed solely to serve Dante's whims, because it probably did. I let him pull me to my feet, lead me to a small open space near the windows. The city sprawled below us, lights twinkling like fallen stars, while Dante's arm slid around my waist, pulling me close enough that I could feel the heat of his body through our clothes. I don't really know how to dance, I admitted as he began to move, guiding me effortlessly. Then let me lead. His breath was warm against my ear. Trust me, Emma. Trust him. Trust a man who admitted to running a criminal empire, who had people killed, who lived in a world of violence and power I couldn't begin to understand. But his hand was solid at the small of my back, his movements confident and sure. And I found myself relaxing into his embrace, letting him guide me across the floor. Why me? I whispered against his chest. You could have anyone. Models, actresses, women who belong in your world. Why me? Because you kissed me without knowing who I was. His hand tightened on my waist, possessive. Because you looked at me and saw a man, not a monster or a meal ticket. Because when I told you the truth about what I am, you did not try to use it or run from it. You simply asked why. I did run from it, I reminded him. Last night. Not from me, from your fear of me. There is a difference. He pulled back slightly, tilting my chin up with his free hand. I am not a good man, Emma. I have done terrible things. I will do terrible things again, but with you. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, his eyes following the movement. With you. I want to try to be better. Dante. He kissed me. Not like in the bar, hungry and demanding. This was different, softer, searching, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me, the feel of me, like I was something precious he was afraid might break. I kissed him back, my hand sliding up his chest to curl around his neck, and felt something shift between us, something dangerous and inevitable, like a storm gathering on the horizon. When he finally pulled away, his breathing was ragged, his eyes black with desire. Come home with me, he said. Not a command, a request. Let me show you my world. Let me keep you safe. Safe? I laughed shakily. You're the most dangerous thing that's ever happened to me. Yes, he agreed. But I am dangerous for you, not to you. There is a difference, Piccola, and I think you are beginning to understand it. He was right. God help me. He was right, because standing in his arms, the city spread out below us like a kingdom at our feet. I didn't feel afraid anymore. I felt claimed, wanted, alive. Okay, I whispered. His eyes flared with triumph and something darker, more possessive. Okay? Show me your world, Dante Caruso. But I'm not promising to stay in it. You will stay. He said it with absolute certainty, his arms tightening around me like he might never let go. Because once I have you, Emma, I will never let you leave. You are mine now, and I protect what is mine. It should have terrified me. Instead, some broken, desperate part of me whispered, finally, someone who would fight to keep me, even if he was the thing I should be running from. Dante's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building that touched the clouds. The elevator ride was silent, charged with an electricity that made my skin prickle. He stood beside me, his hand resting possessively at the small of my back, his presence overwhelming in the confined space. I could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell the cedar and leather of his cologne mixing with something uniquely him, power and danger and dark promises. The doors opened directly into his home, and I stepped into a world I'd only glimpsed in magazines. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the entire space, offering a 360 view of the city lights sprawling below like a fallen galaxy. The furniture was all dark wood and leather, masculine and expensive, arranged with the kind of precision that spoke of a man who controlled every aspect of his environment. Abstract art hung on the walls. Originals, I was certain, and a fireplace crackled in the corner despite the mild weather, casting dancing shadows across marble floors. "It's beautiful," I breathed, moving toward the windows. From this height, the city looked peaceful, the chaos and grime invisible from above. "It's like being in another world." "That is the point." Dante shrugged off his suit jacket, draping it over a chair with casual grace. He moved to a bar cart, pouring amber liquid into crystal glasses. "Up here I can pretend the rest does not exist, that there is only this, only peace." He handed me a glass, his fingers brushing mine, and I took a sip. Whiskey, smooth and expensive, burning a warm path down my throat. "Do you live here alone?" The penthouse felt too large for one person, too empty despite the expensive furnishings. "I have other properties. This is where I come when I need to think." He gestured to a leather sofa facing the windows. "Sit, Piccola. We need to talk." My stomach clenched. That sounds ominous. Perhaps. He settled beside me, close enough that our thighs touched, and I was hyper-aware of every point of contact. "I told you I would be honest with you. So I will tell you something that may frighten you, and you will decide if you still wish to stay." I set down my glass with trembling fingers. "Okay. The kiss you gave me in the bar, it was witnessed by many people, including some who would use that information against me." His jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath his skin. "In my world, showing interest in someone makes them a target. The moment I touched you, the moment I claimed you, you became leverage." The words took a moment to process. "Leverage? Against you?" "My enemies will see you as a weakness, something they can use to hurt me, to manipulate me." His hand found mine, gripping hard enough to hurt. "Already, there are people watching you, following you, waiting to see if you matter enough to be worth taking." Fear shot through me, cold and sharp. "You're saying I'm in danger because I kissed you?" "Yes." No sugarcoating, no false comfort, just brutal honesty, which is why I cannot let you go back to your apartment, your job, your life as it was. I jerked my hand away, standing up so fast I stumbled. "What? You can't just— I have a life. My mom needs me. I have bills to pay." "Your mother is being moved to a private facility as we speak." He remained seated, watching me with those dark, unreadable eyes. "The best cancer treatment center in the country. No cost to you. She will have round-the-clock care, experimental treatments, everything she needs." The room spun. "You— What? When did you—" "This afternoon, after I left the diner." He stood now, moving toward me with predatory grace. "I made calls, arranged things. Your mother's debts are paid. Her treatment is secured. She will live, Emma. I will make sure of it. You can't just—" My voice broke. "You can't just take over my life like this." "I am not taking over your life." He stopped in front of me, his hands gripping my shoulders gently but firmly. "I am protecting it. There is a difference. By forcing me to stay here, by making me a prisoner, by keeping you safe." The facade cracked, real emotion bleeding through, fear, possessiveness, something raw and desperate. "Do you understand what they would do to you? The men who want to hurt me? They would take you, torture you, use you until you were broken, then send me pieces of you to prove their power." I recoiled, bile rising in my throat. "Jesus Christ. That is my world, Emma." His grip tightened. "That is the reality of caring about someone when you are what I am. So yes, you will stay here, you will be protected, And you will let me keep you safe even if you hate me for it. I don't hate you, I whispered, and was shocked to realize it was true. I'm terrified. Of you, of this, of what you're offering. Good. Fear keeps you careful. His thumb brushed across my cheek, catching a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. But know this, Piccola. I will never hurt you. Never let anyone hurt you. You are mine to protect now, and I protect what is mine with everything I have. Why? The question tore from my throat. Why me? You don't know me. We've had one dinner, one kiss. Why would you upend your life, put yourself at risk, for someone you just met? Because you are the first person in 10 years who has made me feel something other than rage or emptiness. His forehead pressed against mine, his breath warm on my lips. Because when you looked at me, you saw a man worth knowing. And because the moment your lips touched mine, I knew I would burn the world down before I let anyone take you from me. It was insane. Possessive. The kind of declaration that should send me running. Instead, I kissed him. I poured everything into it, my fear, my confusion, my desperate need to feel something real in a life that had become nothing but survival. His arms came around me immediately, crushing me against his chest, and he kissed me back like I was oxygen, and he was drowning. Stay, he breathed against my mouth. Stay with me, Emma. Let me give you everything. I don't want everything, I gasped as his lips found my neck, teeth grazing sensitive skin. I need... Tell me. His hands slid up my back, possessive and demanding. Tell me what you need. To matter. The admission broke something inside me. To matter to someone. To not be invisible anymore. He pulled back, his eyes blazing. You will never be invisible again. Everyone will know you are mine. Everyone will know that to touch you is death. He kissed me again, deeper this time, claiming, and I let him. Let him back me toward the bedroom. Let him unzip my dress with hands that shook slightly. Let him worship my body with a reverence that made my chest ache. Beautiful, he murmured against my skin. So fucking beautiful. And mine. Say it, Emma. Say you are mine. I'm yours, I whispered, and felt the truth of it settle into my bones. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the warmth of Dante's body behind me, his arm heavy across my waist, possessive even in sleep. For a moment, I let myself believe this was normal, that I was someone who woke up in penthouses with powerful men, someone whose biggest problem wasn't making rent but choosing which designer dress to wear. Then reality crashed back. My phone was buzzing somewhere. I extracted myself carefully from Dante's grip. He barely moved, though I noticed his breathing changed, suggesting he wasn't as asleep as he appeared, and found my purse on the floor. 7 missed calls from Rosie, 3 from Marcus, 12 texts from Jess and Mia demanding to know where I was, and 1 from an unknown number. Enjoy him while you can. He always loses what he loves. You'll be no different. My blood ran cold. What is it? Dante was behind me instantly, fully alert despite having been asleep seconds ago. His eyes scanned the message, and his expression turned to stone. Fuck. Who is that? Who sent this? Someone who wants to frighten you. Someone who will die for this. He took the phone, his fingers flying across the screen. I need you to listen to me very carefully, Emma. From this moment forward, you do not go anywhere without my men. You do not answer calls from numbers you don't recognize. You do not... Dante. I gripped his arm, forcing him to look at me. Who sent this? He was silent for a long moment, warring with himself. Finally, probably the Moretti family. They have been trying to undermine me for years. If they know about you. His jaw clenched. This is my fault. I should have been more careful, should have protected you better. You're not God, I said quietly. You can't control everything. I can try. He pulled me against him, his arms like steel bands. I will try, Emma. I will keep you safe. A knock at the bedroom door made me jump. Dante called out something in Italian, and one of his men entered, his face grim. They spoke rapidly in Italian, Dante's expression growing darker with each word. Finally, he turned to me. Your apartment was broken into last night. Ransacked. They were looking for you. The room tilted. My things. are being collected and brought here. But Emma, he cupped my face in his hands, forcing me to meet his eyes. You cannot go back there. Ever. Do you understand? That life is over. You are mine now, and you will stay where I can protect you. My mom is safe. I have men watching her. No one will touch her, I swear it. His thumbs brushed across my cheekbones. But you must trust me. Must let me keep you safe. I should have been terrified. Should have demanded my freedom, my life back. Instead, I nodded, because the truth was, I had nothing to go back to. No apartment, no safety. No life that wasn't defined by exhaustion and fear and barely surviving. And Dante, dangerous, possessive, violent Dante, was offering me something I'd never had. Protection, security, the promise that I mattered enough to fight for. Okay, I whispered, I'll stay. The relief on his face was almost painful to witness. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my lips. Gentle kisses that contrasted sharply with the violence I knew he was capable of. I will make them pay for frightening you, he promised against my mouth. Everyone who dared to threaten what is mine will learn the cost of such foolishness. Don't. I gripped his shoulders. Don't do anything that will get you killed. I can't. I've lost too many people already. Something shifted in his expression, softening. You care for me. Of course I care for you, you idiot. I stopped, realizing what I was about to admit. I am what? He prompted. A rare, genuine smile playing at his lips. You're the first person in years who's made me feel like I'm worth protecting. The admission hurt, like I'm worth more than just what I can do for other people. You are worth everything, Piccola. He kissed me deeply, thoroughly, and I will spend every day proving it to you. The buzzer sounded. Someone at the private elevator. Dante stiffened, instantly alert, reaching for the gun I hadn't noticed on the nightstand. Stay here, he commanded, already moving. Dante, stay here. The words were steel, allowing no argument. He disappeared into the living room, and I heard voices, his men, speaking rapidly in Italian. Then a woman's voice, cultured and cold, cutting through the discussion. Where is she? Where is the little nobody who thinks she can replace me? My stomach dropped, because I knew that tone, knew the venom, the entitlement, the rage of a woman scorned. Dante had told me about his world, his enemies, his business, but he hadn't told me about her. And as I heard her heels clicking across his marble floors, heading directly for the bedroom, I realized his most dangerous enemy might not be the Moretti family. It might be the woman who thought she owned him first. She was beautiful. That was my first thought as the bedroom door swung open, revealing a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Tall, willowy, with jet black hair cascading down her back in perfect waves. Designer dress that probably cost more than I'd made in a year, diamonds glittering at her throat and wrists. Red lips curved in a sneer that somehow made her even more stunning. And absolutely furious. So this is her. She looked me up and down with the kind of disdain reserved for insects. This is the little waitress who thinks she can have Dante Caruso? I pulled the sheet tighter around myself, painfully aware that I was naked in Dante's bed, while this woman stood fully dressed and armored in couture. I don't know who you are, Isabella Moretti. She said it like I should recognize the name. When I didn't react, her sneer deepened. Of course. He wouldn't tell you about me, about us. Moretti. The name from the threatening text, the family trying to undermine Dante. Dante appeared in the doorway, his face carved from stone, a gun held loosely in one hand. Get out, Isabella. Or what? You'll shoot me? She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. We both know you won't. Despite everything, you're too much of a gentleman to kill an unarmed woman. Test me. 2 words, soft and lethal. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or respect. But she held her ground. She deserves to know the truth, Dante, about what you really are, what you've done. Emma knows what I am. His voice was ice. I have hidden nothing from her. Haven't you? Isabella turned back to me, her smile vicious. Did he tell you about the man he killed last month? Shot him in the head over a shipment dispute? Or the family he burned out of their home because they couldn't pay protection money? Did he tell you that everything he touches turns to ash and blood? Each word was designed to cut, to make me see Dante as a monster. And maybe they should have worked. Maybe I should have been horrified, but I saw the tension in Dante's shoulders, the way his jaw clenched, the flash of something that looked like shame in his eyes. He'd told me he wasn't a good man. He'd warned me about his world, his violence, his sins. He'd never lied. Yes, I said quietly. He told me. He told me exactly what he was, and I chose to stay anyway. Isabella's perfectly made-up face twisted with rage. You stupid little girl. You think you're special? You think you're the first woman he's brought into his bed and promised to protect? Isabella. Dante's voice cracked like a whip. Leave, now, while I still have enough control not to put a bullet between your eyes. You loved me once, she hissed, her composure cracking. Before your father poisoned you against my family, before this ridiculous feud destroyed everything, I never loved you. Each word was precise, brutal. You were an arrangement. A political alliance that served both our families, nothing more. Liar! She lunged forward, and suddenly there were guards in the room, Dante's men, materializing from nowhere to restrain her. She fought against them, screaming in Italian, mascara running down her face. You're going to get her killed, just like you got Marco killed. Dante went absolutely still. Get her out. Who's Marco? I asked as the guards dragged Isabella toward the door, her screams echoing through the penthouse. My brother. Dante's voice was hollow. He died 3 years ago, killed by the Morettis in retaliation for a deal gone wrong. The door slammed shut, cutting off Isabella's screams. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Is that why you hate them? I whispered. Because they killed your brother? I hate them because they took someone I loved and made me watch as they destroyed him. Dante set the gun down carefully, his hands shaking slightly. Marco was innocent. He wanted nothing to do with the family business. But they took him anyway, tortured him for 3 days, then sent me his body in pieces. My heart cracked. Dante, this is what I am, Emma. He turned to face me, and his expression was raw, broken. This is what you are choosing, a man who has caused so much death that his enemies will use anyone I care about to hurt me. Isabella was right. I am going to get you killed. No. I stood, wrapping the sheet around myself, and crossed to him. You're going to keep me safe. You promised. I promised my brother I would keep him safe, too. His voice cracked, and he died screaming my name. I cupped his face in my hands, forcing him to look at me. I am not your brother. I am not Isabella. I am Emma. And I am choosing this, choosing you, even knowing the cost. Why? The question was anguished. Why would you choose this? Choose me? Because for the first time in my life, someone is fighting to keep me. The words poured out, unstoppable. My whole life, I've been the one holding everything together. Taking care of my dad before he died, taking care of my mom, working myself to death just to survive. No one has ever looked at me and said, you matter enough for me to burn the world down. No one has ever made me feel like I was worth protecting. You are worth everything. His hands covered mine, gripping tight. You are worth dying for. Then don't die. I pulled him down, kissing him hard. Live for me instead. Fight for me. Keep us both safe. He kissed me back desperately, his arms crushing me against him like he was afraid I might disappear. I will kill anyone who tries to take you from me. I know. And I did. I'd seen the violence in his eyes, the cold calculation, but right now, I need you to tell me everything about Marco, about Isabella, about what happened to make you this way. So he did. We sat on the floor of his bedroom, wrapped in sheets and early morning light. And Dante Caruso, Mafia boss, killer, king of a dark empire, told me his story. He told me about growing up in his father's shadow, trained from childhood to take over the family business. About Marco, his younger brother who'd dreamed of being an architect, who'd begged to be allowed to leave the family. About how their father had refused, saying family was everything, blood was binding. About the night Marco was taken, the 3 days of waiting, hoping, praying, the box that arrived on the 4th day. About becoming the man his father wanted. Cold, ruthless, powerful. About building an empire on fear and blood because love only got you killed. About Isabella, the daughter of their rival family, offered as a peace treaty. The engagement that was supposed to unite their families, end the violence. About discovering it was all a lie. That the Morettis had planned Marco's death from the beginning, that Isabella had known, that the engagement was just another weapon. About the war that followed, the bodies, the blood, the slow, systematic destruction of everything the Morettis had built. I became a monster, he finished, his voice hoarse. I became exactly what my father wanted. And then I met you. I'm not going to fix you, I said quietly. I'm not going to make you a better man or redeem you with the power of love or whatever fairy tale you're imagining. He looked at me, surprised, but I'm also not going to run from you. I took his hand, intertwining our fingers. You're right. You're a monster. You've done terrible things. You'll probably do terrible things again. But you've also been honest with me from the beginning. You've protected me. You've given my mother a chance to live. And you've made me feel like I matter. You do matter. He kissed my knuckles. More than anything. Then prove it. I met his eyes. Not by killing your enemies or burning down their empire. Prove it by living. By being happy. By letting me choose to stay instead of caging me in gold and calling it protection. If I let you leave, I won't leave. I said it with certainty, not because I'm trapped, but because I want to be here, with you. But I need to know it's my choice, Dante. I need to know you trust me enough to let me choose you every day. He stared at me for a long moment, warring with himself. Then slowly, he nodded. Okay. You can come and go as you please. My men will protect you, but you are not a prisoner. Thank you. But, he continued, his grip tightening, you do not take stupid risks. You do not go anywhere without telling me. And if I say something is too dangerous, you listen. Agreed? Agreed. He pulled me into his lap, burying his face in my neck. I do not deserve you. Probably not. I ran my fingers through his hair, but you're stuck with me anyway. 3 months later, I stood in my mother's private room at the treatment center, watching her sleep peacefully. She looked better. Color in her cheeks, the constant pain lines around her eyes finally smoothed away. The experimental treatment was working. She was going to live. She looks good, Dante said from the doorway, his presence filling the space. Thanks to you. I turned to face him. He was in his usual perfectly tailored suit, but now I could read the subtle tells, the slight tension in his shoulders that meant he was worried, the way his eyes never stopped moving, cataloging threats. Thanks to us. He crossed to me, pulling me into his arms. You convinced her to try the treatment. I merely provided the means. Merely, I echoed, laughing softly. You paid for the best cancer center in the country. Money is easy, Piccola. Convincing a stubborn woman to accept help, that is the real challenge. He kissed my forehead. I know this from experience. I smiled against his chest. The last 3 months had been an education in Dante's world. Learning which families were allies and which were enemies, understanding the delicate balance of power that kept his empire running, accepting the guards who followed me everywhere, and the panic room in the penthouse and the gun he insisted I learn to use. But it had also been 3 months of waking up in his arms, of dinners where he asked about my day, and actually listened, of late-night conversations about everything and nothing, of learning that beneath the monster was a man who'd been shaped by tragedy and violence, but who was capable of surprising gentleness, of falling completely, irrevocably in love with him. The Moretti situation is resolved, Dante said quietly. Isabella has been sent back to Italy. Her father has agreed to a truce. I pulled back to look at him. Just like that? Not just like that. His expression was grim, but it is handled. You are safe now, Emma. Truly safe. I was always safe. I touched his face. Because you were protecting me. Always. He caught my hand, kissing my palm. I have something for you. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and my heart stopped. Before you panic, he said, seeing my expression. It is not what you think. Not yet, anyway. He opened the box, revealing a key. Ornate, antique-looking, clearly expensive. This is the key to every property I own, he explained. Every safe house, every apartment, every business. You can go anywhere, anytime. You are not my prisoner, Emma. You are my partner, my equal, my choice as I am yours. Tears pricked my eyes. Dante, I love you. He said it simply. No drama, no grand gesture, just truth. I have loved you since you walked up to me in that bar and kissed me like you had every right to. Like I was someone worth knowing instead of someone to fear. I love you too, I whispered. Even though you're absolutely insane and probably going to get us both killed. He laughed. A real laugh, rare and beautiful. Probably. But what a way to go. He kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And I kissed him back, tasting our future. Dangerous and uncertain and absolutely perfect, because I'd learned something in these 3 months. Safety wasn't about avoiding danger. It was about finding someone willing to stand between you and the world, someone who saw all your broken pieces and thought they were worth protecting. And Dante Caruso, monster, killer, king of a dark empire, was mine, just as I was his. Take me home, I murmured against his lips. You are home, Piccola. His arms tightened around me. Wherever I am, you are home. And for the first time in years, standing in his arms with my mother healing and my future uncertain but filled with possibility, I believed it. I was home. Not in a place, but in the arms of a dangerous man who loved me enough to let me choose him every single day. And I would choose him, over and over, for the rest of our lives, no matter how dangerous, no matter the cost, because some loves are worth fighting for, even when the man you love is a monster. Especially then. Epilogue 6 months later, I stood in front of a mirror in a white dress that cost more than my old apartment. My mother's hands adjusting my veil with trembling fingers. Are you sure about this, baby? She asked. Healthy now, alive, her eyes bright with tears. I looked at my reflection, no longer the exhausted, invisible waitress who'd stumbled through life on empty. Now I was someone else entirely. Someone loved, someone protected, someone who'd chosen danger and darkness and found light anyway. I've never been more sure of anything. Dante waited for me at the end of the aisle, surrounded by his family, both blood and chosen. His expression when he saw me was everything. Awe and possessiveness and love so fierce it took my breath away. I walked toward him, toward my future, my choice, my love. And when he took my hand, sliding a ring onto my finger with hands that had killed but would only ever worship me, I knew I'd made the right choice, the dangerous one, the one that saved us both. I love you, Mrs. Caruso, he whispered, as we were pronounced husband and wife. I love you too, I whispered back. My beautiful monster. He kissed me then, in front of everyone, claiming me one final time, and I kissed him back, choosing him one final time, though I knew it wouldn't be the final time. I would choose him every day for the rest of our lives. That was my promise, my vow, my forever.